What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. I just got back from Vegas. I was there for 7 days, and then my silly boyfriend had come out, so we spent some time there together yesterday, and then came back last night. It's been fun, but there was the premiere of The Conners that happened last week, which anybody that knows me knows I've always listed Roseanne as one of my comedy influences, and I was very honest about being disappointed in her with the Valerie Jarrett post that she had put up on Twitter, back the one that got her in all the trouble, and now we're to where we are. I recently saw her on an episode of Joe Rogan's podcast, and I have to say, I didn't think she was insincere, and I did believe what she said about not meaning the post in that way. I think a lot of times when someone's being painted as crazy, it's kind of hard for a person to refute being crazy when everybody's yelling you're crazy. And the fact that Roseanne does legitimately suffer from mental illness is, I think, also playing into the she's crazy narrative. And she's been very open about her struggles. So there comes a point for me where I feel like, is the person really worth the headache? And when it comes to Roseanne and this episode, the first episode of The Conners, I really do feel like the show was way better when she was on it. Even if some people don't agree with something she said in her personal life, or they think that maybe she didn't mean that tweet in a racist way, which I really don't. After listening to her explain it and explain where she was coming from, I really don't feel like she meant the tweet in a racist way. And I know some people will be mad at that, but I just don't. She's also, when it just comes to the show and entertainment value, the show just wasn't the same without her, and they were trying their best to make it as fun and as interesting as it possibly could be, but it just really wasn't that fun. And I love that show. So if it had been able to march on without her and it was just like, oh, this was a fun show. They also were dealing with her death on this episode, so maybe I'm not being fair there, but I'm the kind of viewer that if you don't hook me right away, then I'm just not going to be hooked. When they revamped Roseanne not too long ago and it came out in this incarnation, I felt the same way. I was like, okay, well, it's been 20 years, so let's see what it looks like if they're able to actually pull it off. That first episode had me hooked, and I was ready to go from there. And then each episode after I enjoyed as well. So when it comes to this one, it's like, yeah, I would be disappointed that Roseanne wasn't going to be on it to a certain degree, but I also could understand why. And then at that point, I'm just willing to watch the show and see what it's like as a show. I understand if some people don't think Roseanne should get her job back, and I understand if she doesn't get her job back. Plus, it would be kind of hard to give a person their job back after they've already been dead. But I think Dan was dead at the end of the last season, but then that turned out to all be a dream, back 20 years ago. So I really feel, in my opinion, that the show just isn't that much of a draw without Roseanne. And yeah, Roseanne is a bit off the wall in her thinking sometimes, but she makes interesting stuff, and there was a nice rivalry going on between her and Jackie, or her family and Jackie, because she was like the Trump supporter and Jackie was the Hillary supporter, or the more liberal, and it made a really good dynamic. It's something that we're not getting to see not only on TV but also in real life right now. In a lot of cases, people will try to stay away from each other if they have opposite opinions on politics, and I thought it was making a good example for the country, believe it or not, as silly as that may sound, but we all know TV does influence a lot of things. So when that gets taken away and taken out of the conversation, I just am not as interested. I like watching opposing viewpoints go at it a little bit in a respectful way, and especially in a humorous way, because to me that's the best way to argue. That's why I'm always open to doing the panel shows where it's other comedians and you get to have fun and be silly with them and make fun of things that should be completely serious. Even your own views, if you really like making people laugh, sometimes you have to throw those out the window too and just be like, this is just a funny thing to say, or this is just a funny way to look at it. And it doesn't matter which direction it's coming from, left or right, so to speak. It's just sometimes fun. And I think that that's what's been lost in the Conners. So I know that Juliette Lewis is supposed to be on a few episodes coming up, and Matthew Broderick is supposed to show up as a love interest for Jackie, and maybe I'll end up catching some of those just by happenstance or be in a hotel room on the nights that they're playing. But I can tell you honestly that I'm not going to go out of my way to watch the Roseanne show, which when it was still Roseanne, I can say the opposite was true, and I would go out of my way to actually watch it. I'd make sure my roommate at the time would save it on the DVR for me so I could check it out, and I'm just not feeling that anymore. So you guys can let me know what you think. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It does help me when you like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. I hope